Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again, here with part 4 of my reaction to Mr. Chris Ryan and Ben Garwood on the Hugh Care HR podcast. So let's jump back in.
Going back, we were talking about technology at the start, and you mentioned it when you were on about the girl and the GPS and the maps, and you mentioned it as well. I remember when GPSs started becoming affordable, 0304, and the guys started buying them. I remember in my head, I outright refused to buy one because I thought, if I'm going to get one, that's the easy option to get my grid. I took pride in map reading anyway. It's the easy option to get my grid. So I ain't fucking getting it. I'm going to stick. I remember going on a slight course, and there was guys on there, and they would hide the GPS away, and there was a couple of hide the GPS
big bags,
hide it away, and then they got around. What would happen? Batteries ran out. Mobile phones had just started becoming affordable.
Yeah,
and we'd check to see we'd have text to any issues. Guaranteed check on the hour on an Avex. Look at it, and there'd be a text. And the same person every time, mate, where are you? They have to ring him up and he go, I'm trying, nighttime, trying to explain to you where he is, and I'm fucking hell, man. Because he was lost. He had a map, he had a compass, but because he'd become reliant on the fucking GPS, he didn't have a fucking clue to navigate. A paratrooper couldn't navigate.
So I helped out on the briefing course, and there was a kid on the briefing course who, infantry full screw, and he said, I'd met him on my briefing course. This is him now going on again, one of my many briefing courses. Anyway, he met him again, and at that time we did the swim test. He failed the swim test. I'm not being funny. If you're thinking about joining special forces, if I ask my kid, one of the things, do you think you need to be able to swim? Yes. I'd say if you're going to be in special forces, you need it. This guy doesn't know how to fucking swim. The next, he failed his map reading twice. Corporal in the infantry failed his map reading twice. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, how have you failed that? And then, and I spoke to him and said, look, you failed your swim test. You failed your map reading. You're meant to be a corporal in the infantry. Why is this happening? All of these are fundamental skills you think you know. Because I've been working with fitness. I said, mate, you just failed the A minor. So what the fuck have you been doing for all this period of time? You know?
We had a serving blade go down to do junior Brecken, and he failed the BFT. Can you imagine?
Jesus.
Failed it not once, twice.
You get those people out, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, BFT is that battle fitness test. Not sure what their acronym is for BFT, but heck, there's some funny stuff in there. I particularly like Hugh Care's comments about guys buying GPSs when they started becoming available. The guys that I served with in the regiment, there were guys that I knew that had a GPS. This is never had one for selection. You were never allowed any sort of GPS device on selection. It was map, compass, protractor, notebook, pen, and pencil. So, but once we were in Australia, or once I was fortunate to get in Australia, there were guys that had GPSs, but they used them just as a backup to confirm where they were. They still had all the fundamental skills down pat with regards to map reading, and they had a GPS which they would then turn on if they needed to. I never had one. I never purchased a GPS. But they would use that to check nav, double check where they were. And so I could see the value in that. There was a hard case about the guy that he was talking about had no idea where he was because he just became reliant on it. And then hearing Ben Garwood's story about a guy that going on SF selection, can't swim or whatever, fails a swim test. This is a full corporal, so full screw, I think is what he said, full corporal. And then he goes on again and then fails the map reading twice as a full corporal in the infantry. So that's pretty nuts. Like even to go on selection and not be good at that. And then when Ben, I think he said, asked him what he'd been doing. He says, I've been focusing on the fitness. He failed the 8 miler. So what have you been doing? And then hearing Chris Ryan's story about a guy that went on, I'm guessing junior Brecken is like a junior NCOs or a subject one for promotion, like a promotional course. Doesn't mean you're going to get promoted after. I don't know if that's what their junior Brecken is, but that's what it sort of sounds like. And one of the badge members went on there and failed the BFT. yeah, that I couldn't personally. I couldn't imagine a badged operator going onto a course like that and failing any physical aspect. It just, yeah, you would be getting a lot of heat from the regiment, from the unit, after that. And then imagine the stories that the guys at the Junior Brecken course are going to talk about, those that aren't badged members or SF at all. And go, yeah, we had an SF guy who couldn't even pass the BFT. Not good.
Sometimes it's a bit of bad luck.
I know, but even in Hereford,
was he on the latch the night before?
No, he hadn't looked after it. We went through a period, I don't know what it's like. I mean, we just got like a new gym, and then we had, weights in there, but there was this culture of bodybuilding. It was, and that's when SP team was the main focus. So, you'd bulk up. He'd getting himself too heavy. But he knew he was doing that course probably about a month or 2 months prior to it. Yeah. And the first thing he would do is, I'm losing that bulk because I know it's going to be strapped around my waist, and I'm going to be running every day.
Well, you said it, the issue when you go on there, and the SAS is a great place. I did enjoy it, join it myself to be, for an ego thing. I did it for me. But one of the things is you do end up standing out on these courses, regardless. You'll always get looked at. People are always judging you. So that guy's already on the back foot because everyone is looking at him because they think that person is going to be, we had a guy similar. He came from a non-infantry, I think it was a tanky background, came on selection, was a bit of a wobble. So they put him on juniors, and then he had an ego on that course. He was like, well, I don't even need to be on the SAS. No. The SAS didn't teach you how to soldier, mate. The SAS just tested you and you passed those tests. It has not taught you how to soldier. You're here to learn how to soldier. And his arrogance of going down there, same reason as that lad, meant that he failed. But now, all those people on that course, now I think the guys are coming.
Yeah, well.
Oh, okay. Junior Brecken sounds like something very different to what we would call junior NCOs or subject 1 and 2 and stuff for corporal and that sort of thing. So interesting. Sounds almost more like a core training, Junior Brecken, but maybe at a higher level. But core training from an infantry perspective is where you're then learning the basics and the fundamentals of how to soldier. Then you go into an infantry regiment unit, and then you start refining those skills and then seeing how the bigger picture works from platoon, company, battalion coordinated attacks, etc. Interesting. Anyway.
When I did their juniors, I was like, I can't leave this without a distinction. So I'm going down there and I'm fitting in. I'm an infanteer, and that's the thought process. So if they say put your notebook in that pocket, you put your torch in this pocket, you put that in
Play
there,
the game.
you just do it, and then you crack on. But I saw guys coming down going, "Oh, we don't do it that way," and then you're like, "Yeah, we do." And then it was my mate. He was X2 para. He got all my weapons sorted out. I think it was 58 pattern then, with the old roll, the poncho roll it back and tighten it up so it wasn't flapping. And then you'd see some of the lads running and they've got like a jungle,
around by the tits.
Yes, yeah. Fuck that. It's this whole thing of being intelligent enough to understand a very simple situation and fit into it. Because you've got the target on your back, you play that, and it's a bone saying, but you play that grey man all the time. Just do not, stand out. One thing I know when I did selection, because I came from 2-3, I knew every fucker was going to be watching me. And I was guilty of doing the same thing, because when I was an instructor on 22 SAS, I would go into the training office and then you'd see all the names, different regiments. I'd see, right, there's one from 2-1, one from 2-3, get them pointed out at me, and I'd be watching them. And I was guilty of it, which is, it's fine. The eyes are on them from that side.
And then there's self-induced pressure for those individuals, because now they're putting the pressure on, which means self-induced pressure means they're going to fuck up. They're going to then overly think about their fuck up. When there's other people who just sometimes...
They're going to thrive.
Maybe. I mean, there are some lads who can thrive, some people who are. We all know Teflon. I've got a few guys that I work with. Shit does not stink to them. Jay Morn, the lad who's on the TV now, our old mate. Fuck, that man is Teflon. It's because he's so horizontal, nothing fucking sticks to him. Inside, I'm hoping he's screaming. But on the outside, shit.
There was a small example of that. We all got to the cookhouse on day one, and there was a couple of lads from 2-3, as well as myself, and 2-1. And some of them had the SAS epaulets with Lance Corporal. I was like,
Take it off.
Don't just like keep away from them. I had the old crab hat on and like that, and just disappear into the background.
Well, you said that earlier about when you're up at Depot Para. You went up Depot Para as an SAS guy and you play the game.
You go in. I knew what the haircut would be. I knew what the uniform was in. Like everything soft. Because that guy, Fred Toland, he was RSM. He's a great guy. I was there with a lad from the Navy, and we got in and we had the interview, told that we were where we're starting and who our the training sergeants were. And he said, just crack on, fit in, do everything. Not play the game, but learn the infanteers. And he said to this lad, he said, "You get a haircut." And then he looked at me and went, "And make sure he does." Well, we in Browning Barracks used to be the head barber there. So your man comes in, he went, "I just take it off the sides and off there." I'm like, "You can't do that." Not like this. Next time the RSM saw us, it was me that got the bollocking. And I'm like that. Fuck you,
Okay, so it does sound like more of a infantry specific type, what we would call core training in NZ, and maybe in Australia what they might call IETs. I forget what that stands for. Infantry something training. I'm guessing I can't remember what that stands for, but the junior Brecken, I might be wrong. Anybody that knows what the junior Brecken is, they're talking about paras and learning how to be infantrymen, and that sort of stuff. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know how long that goes for. The core training that I did in NZ went for about 12 weeks or 14 weeks for infantry core training, where you're learning all those basics. And then I think the IETs in Australia might go for a similar amount of time. Sometimes it fluctuates anywhere between 12 to 16 weeks, depending on what's happening. I think one of my sons did a core training that was 14 weeks, and I think the other one might have done a 12-week one. So, yeah, I guess it just depends on whatever they've got going on and how they're running about or how they're going about doing things. But the other key part that I really like, what both Chris and I think I've heard Ben speak about as well, but probably more so Chris in terms of what I've heard so far, is him speaking about in regards to that particular course, you just go there and you do it and you learn the infantry fundamentals, basic skills, etc. Me, I should have taken that sort of approach on board when I went onto the sub 1 course in Australia. It's very different. You're not learning how to soldier there. You're doing a whole bunch of what I considered basic Green Army stuff that we did in basic training and a mix. There is a bit of a training exercise, a field exercise at the end, but it was more one of those, my take anyway, was more one of those things where infantrymen and guys from the unit are more or less helping these other corps from logistics, from communications, from tankies, from cooks, from whatever other corps within the army, because it's an all-arms course, get through the course. Weapons are fine, the soldering stuff is fine, is never an issue by the time you get onto or go onto a course like that. But it was all the other stuff that I just hated. The drill I hated, the stuff to do with the polishing of your boots and shoes. Like, don't get me wrong, those are good to have high standards and that sort of thing. But it's like the term we would use is camp soldier stuff. And I just hated camp soldier stuff. Like I wanted to do stuff that was specific to the job. I felt like I'd already gone through, this was my pride and ego coming in. I felt like I'd already gone through the camp soldier stuff, through going through basic training, going through core training, getting into battalion. Like, you do all of that stuff in battalion. Make sure everything's polished, nice and shiny, everything's cleaned, spick and span, etc. Then I went through a part of an IET in Australia, and he did a couple of weeks there. Thankfully, they didn't make me do the whole of basic or core training or their version of core training again. Got into battalion, made sure I played the game there in battalion as well in Australia, and then went through selection cycle and then got to where I wanted to get to, and I was like, this is it. I knew about the courses, the promotional courses, and that, everybody tried to dodge them for as long as they could, and some guys had some really good runs at dodging them. I didn't like the fact that I got put onto one so soon. And I didn't want to do it. So, yeah, I withdrew myself from that course. But in hindsight, there was a silly thing, but also no regrets. I mean, everything's worked out the way it was supposed to. And although it meant some other knock-on stuff in terms of showing cause. It is what it is. I wouldn't be where I am today without that experience, but also without that reflection and hindsight to look at that and go, bloody idiot, should have just stayed there and done it. But then I've had an opportunity to share some of those failings from my part and reflections with those closest to me and people that I don't know from a bar of soap as well, that are preparing for and or aspiring to go and serve in a place like especially a service, and to embrace every course that comes, much like what Chris and Ben have said. You embrace it, play the game, and look to, I think he mentioned and used the term distinction. In Australia, they use the term SOM, Student of Merit, but look to go out and try and get top student on that course or whatever course it is. Just go there and just give it heaps. And that's what I failed to, in my immaturity and silliness, stubbornness, pridefulness. I missed seeing that perspective of it. Anyway.
I've got a question. Have we got enough time?
Got a few minutes. Go on.
Okay. So obviously, when you started out, mate, we didn't have the social media like we do now. There's a few of us now that come out. Well, there are some shit cunts who are ex-SF. They are. We know who they are. They did fuck all time. We kicked them out because they're fucking useless, and now they're big time and any chance to get the berry of. They are absolute bolters, and we know they're bolters because they achieved nothing else. Now we're starting to see some really good people come out. Jay Morton is a really good example of this. Great character, and I've been on ops with him. I know exactly what he's like. And then obviously yourself from back in the day. There is a massive change and shift, isn't there, with these people coming out?
Oh yeah, it's what we were saying. I think there is an illusion which is created for the NCOs of the regiment. When you leave the regiment, you don't say you were in there, you don't advertise it, you don't do it. It's like bollocks that. They have every right. When you see officers, ex-officers, they keep their wings on, they promote that on their CVs when they're going to an oil company. It's, I was CEO, I was Director of Special Forces, and yet the lads are supposed to keep it down. Now, there is a balance. If you start bringing out secrets and shit like that, it's wrong.
Great.
But I think, yeah, why not? The guys have served their country. They've had a great career. They've reached the pinnacle, and they should be able to utilize that to make a living when they come out. You can't just say, right, you're a staff sergeant or you're 001, you're leaving the regiment, get yourself a job in the office. As a typist, go on a building site, be a bus driver. It's like, screw that. You've got to utilize them skills to a certain degree and make a living, because you're going to be a long time out of the regiment, and you've got to make your money somehow.
I think some of these people who we don't have any credibility for, zero credibility, they came out on social media, they used it quite early on. Unfortunately, it's put them in a position where, they get legends and all kinds of crap. We know what they're really like. I think it was very difficult for a lot of us, because we wouldn't go onto social media because of that integrity, and we had this thing where we should do this. I think there's a shift in that. That's what's good to see you.
Yeah, they make some good points, man. I like what both Ben and Chris have spoken about. 100%. You should be able to use, or you should use, any ORs, NCOs, other ranks, or non-commissioned officers. When you leave, that's a huge part of why you joined the army. I presume it's been a big part of, for a lot of people, it's been a massive part of their life and their service and what they've done. And why not add that to your CV and structure it in a way that's applicable to the job that you might be applying for? I've done it, and I know plenty of people that have done it. And you try to go about it in a respectful way with regards to what it is, to the value that you bring. Because at the end of the day, people are like, I'm no different. We try to bring and add value to an organization or to a business or a company, whatever it is, wherever it is that we're planning on going to, because we want to show that we're worth whatever the salary is, as an example, and or whatever that position requires. We want to show that we can fill that role in that position and serve to the best of our ability, and serve and either meet and or exceed the requirements of that role for that company. So, man, I don't see anything wrong with that. It's interesting. Jay Morton, I've got to check him out. I've seen some stuff. I think he's been interviewed on the Mulligan Brothers. I haven't got into his stuff yet, but definitely need to check him out, especially after hearing Ben Garwood speak so highly about him. And then the other part, like I looked to, I don't know if you'd call it early, but I was getting into the podcasting stuff with the Epic Aotearoa podcast with my brother-in-law, and we started this Who Dares Win series, which I was really enjoying and getting a lot of, I guess, growth, learning, development for me, understanding from speaking with guys that had far more experience, that had been on far more operations, that had, done a whole bunch of other things as well to an extremely high standard. And it was awesome for me, but I think there was some concerns, like what Chris said, as long as you're not giving away secrets and that sort of stuff. Don't know that I have. I don't think I have. I don't feel like I have anyway. But I know that there was some concerns around the podcast that I was doing at that time. Maybe there's less now. I don't know. And people were, from what I understand anyway, a bit hesitant and reluctant to come on, or the units were reluctant or hesitant or mindful, cautious of anybody coming onto the podcast with me. But anyway, that stuff's all stopped now, and it stopped. I've mentioned a video as to why it stopped and dropped off the radar for a while. And who knows, maybe down the track at some point, people often ask me if I'm going to do any interviews again. Maybe at some point down the track, if people are open to it and wanting to. But right now, I'm quite happy being in my own little lane and just listening to experienced guys like this, listening to other podcasts, watching things and giving my take and my reaction to stuff. And it's enjoyable for me. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I was forced into it because, I mean, there's two, say, Geordie Armstrongs. There's still in the back of my mind, I'm conditioned to, like, in the regiment. The other side, because of the book world, I've got to, do that. I would never do Twitter or FaceTime, and then I was forced into doing this Instagram, which I hate because I'm not like, I think that show you off type thing, yeah, and like saying, oh, look at me, I'm doing this, and then sometimes I'm sitting thinking, fuck, I've got to like send a picture. What do I send? It's you get wrapped up in it, and it's a vicious circle, and that social media ends up ruling you. Now, there's a couple of sites on that Instagram when I've looked through. There's some photographs there that are pretty compromising.
Yes.
And you think you're pushing it there to fuck everybody else up.
Yeah.
Now, never underestimate the general public. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be the worst SAS soldier or the best SAS soldier. They're going to be like putting it down. They're going to be on bended knee and everything else. I got wrapped up in the early days with about another guy, and it became a competition between the two. It started off with a thing that he crossed the line, and he was bang out of order. You get wrapped up in it, you get consumed in it, and what happens is you start losing the picture.
Focus.
Yeah, focus. So forget about them. They'll disappear or go, let them do their thing, and you focus on yours. I know it's fucking irritating. It really is. But you just can't get it wrapped up because you're wasting time. It's negativity, and then you're putting yourself under pressure. You focus on yourself and don't look to.
And like you said, you're always going to come out the worst. For me personally, on social media, it's about promoting HR and the stuff that we do around it. It's not about me. It's about using that SAS stuff as the ethos behind what this is all about. And that's the same as your books. You use it, your knowledge, your experiences to promote those bits and pieces of books. Obviously, some people, they don't have that knowledge, they don't have those experiences, so they're actually trying to promote themselves. But you go online, you have these, these shit-throwing competitions with these people. You'll always come out the worst, because as you quite rightly said, instead of focusing on what's important.
Never get wrapped up in anybody like saying, oh, I like such and such, I don't like you. Do not answer any shit like that. Because again, I was in my house in America, and I was sat there looking through it, and
it's got a house in America. I've got a house underwater.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'm looking, and there was a picture, and I was firing a pistol because you can't obviously fire them over here in America. So somebody put this comment on saying, you want to work on your bingo wings. So I put it down, and I'm like that. So I'm sitting having a brew, watching TV, and in the back of my mind, this is going, fucking boiling.
Yeah,
And I just went, pulled the pin, because this is some computer worry.
Yeah.
Fuck, I just put this first through, came back, and I was livid. And I thought, right, I've got to get all of that off now, because you've actually shown yourself. Never ever react to anybody.
Yeah, quite good.
Because no matter who you are, there's always somebody who's going to think you're a, whatever.
They want a reaction.
Yeah. So, sorry, I cut Hugh off there. We'll hear what he has to say. They do want a reaction. And so, for some people, much like me doing reactions to videos, maybe that's their pastime and that's what they enjoy doing. So some of that stuff, I think, I don't know. I think these days probably more cognizant of what Hugh was just about to say, that they're after a reaction. It looks like he's about to go through a few more things. They want to see if they can get a bite, and they want to get underneath people's skin or whatever. Or some people just genuinely may think that they are 100% right, that they're the, what is it, that they're the dog's bollocks, that their stuff doesn't stink, So taking all that into consideration and the counsel that Chris is talking about, just leave it. So a lot of times I can't help it, because a lot of times if I read stuff, particularly if it's a comment about me, and most of the time it is, you'll see some laughing faces in there, and either okay mate, or thanks mate, or thanks for stopping by, or whatever. Like, there's not much point in engaging. I don't think anyway. There's not much point in engaging, going on and on about it. Sometimes some people ask questions. I'm not too sure whether they're legitimately, genuinely asking a question. So I want to try and give a bit of an answer without being disrespectful or rude. Then other people, you can just see they're blatantly after a bite, and so I just can't help but laugh. And it's like, yep, each to their own, bro. Anyway, let's see what Hugh has to say. Let's go back.
Somebody is going to think you're a, whatever.
They want a reaction. They want attention.
Yeah.
And the best is wine some of it. And the best thing to do. I mean, I'm very fortunate with this. I don't have much negative stuff. I have had it, but not much. But if it comes to the likes like Instagram and Twitter, you can block people and that.
Yes.
I ain't even fucking blocking them, because it's attention.
Yes.
If they get the attention from block, I just stick them on mute, and you're not even getting that attention.
Cool, I mean, I was at a book fair.
I like what Hugh said there. I don't. Well, I'm only on YouTube anyway. I'm not sure about Twitter or Instagram. Haven't blocked anybody on there. Haven't blocked or deleted any comments. I just let people leave their comments on the channel.
The guy came in. He went. He said, I passed selection. I went, what year? And it was. He said, 3 years ago. Oh, really? He went, yeah. He's on TV. And I was like, you've got to take a deep breath. And I just said, listen, mate, that is the furthest thing. Selection. He went, oh, no, it's not. He said, I got a certificate. I passed the SAS selection. And you just go, right, what would you like written in your book? Sign it. And then
I was sort of say, I mean, apparently it's quite cheeky, but I mean, going back to that, there's people there that they're doing the fan dance, right? And they're giving out rocks that they get to the fan with a SAS cat badge. That's my cat badge. I earned that cat badge. And the person who's given that rock out with my cat badge just hasn't earned that.
Yeah.
That is Walter Mitty. But there's all these people who are doing that event for the right reasons. They want to challenge themselves. Fair play, I think it's great. But there's people making money off the back of something they've never done. And to try and sell that you're doing the selection.
No,
That's crap. I didn't realise that. I've heard about the fan dance. Some people have said to me I should go over and do the fan dance. It'd be great to be able to be in a position where I can do that one day. Go and walk some of the places where the lads have clearly earned their cap badge, as Ben's talking about. But that's the other part. Who and why are those who are running the fan dance giving out cap badges to those that complete that challenge? That would be like me trying to give out a wing dagger or the flaming sword of Excalibur to those that participate in and do the 30-hour reckoning. That's just ludicrous. That's not selection that anybody's doing. They're doing maybe a small part of what the UKSF selection entails, and you haven't earned that flaming sword, that blade, that wing dagger, whatever you want to call it. yeah, that's pretty poor form. I haven't heard of that sort of thing. I didn't realise that was happening until hearing Ben just now.
It's not. It isn't, and but it's the SAS have that aura, where people want to touch it, want to be around it. Them guys have probably never been in the army, or maybe have been in, an infantry regiment, but certainly not in the regiment and have done it. So you just got to put it to one side. But it is annoying. In the regiment again, I think the disclosure got their patent. The name
they have done, and the cap bash.
Yes, and the cap bash. Yeah,
it's good.
And yeah, it should have been done a lot longer, in the past. But no, I meet at a book signing. The guy will come in and he's got his blazer on. He pull it to one side and there's an SAS pin under there. And you're like,
well, I've got one for you. So a mate of mine, he's SBS. He said to me, Ben, can you check this bloke out for me? It's my stepdad. He said he was in the regiment for years. And I said, okay, what squadron was he? He said, I texted him. He said he was B squadron. I said, okay, what's the motif? What's the logo of B squadron? So you should know that. He said, it says back here, it said, it changes all the time. Right, okay. Have you got a picture of your dad, or your stepdad? Because I can go round and have a look. By all accounts, his dad was a bit of a shit. So I went round to the squadron lines, looked at all the pictures under the name, couldn't see this name. I said, ask him to send you a picture of himself in the squadron. He sent me this picture, and it was you. He sent a picture of you. He said, that's me. Yeah, that's me, B squadron. And I was talking to the lad who's next to you in the picture who we were talking about earlier. And I said to him, because obviously he sent a picture, but with the eyes covered out. Yeah. Right? And I knew who the other guy was, and I said, well, who's this guy? And he was like, well, that's me next there. And that's Geordie Armstrong. And I was like, so this guy's been pretending to be you. Have all the people in the whole picture, and then the one person he's pretending to be is the one person who everyone knows who he is anyway.
But you get them. I mean, every time I'm out, I'll meet people who will claim it, and I'm thinking, don't tell me, tell somebody else, And from a serious side, over a few years, a woman came in and said, you work with my husband. And I said, what's his name? Didn't recognize the name. I said, when did I work with him? She went, oh, in Africa. And I was like, whereabouts in Africa? And she said, it was only last month. I went, listen, Lord, when he talks about me, what does he say? And she went, oh, Chris Ryan. I went, no, my name's Colin Armstrong. And I said, I don't know your husband. And then she went, oh yeah, things have just like clicked. Turns out this guy was married and he was going on secret operations. And a similar one happened.
Secret Black Ops.
Yeah. Secrets. Where this guy, he was pretending to be a regiment guy. And I just said to them, listen, he'll have a red book and that's got his military career in there. Get him to, show. You'll not remember this book. It was called The Nemesis Files. Now, in a branding, it was black and it had the wing dagger on there. And this bastard knocked me off the number 1 spot. This is going back 25 years. And the story was about an SAS murder squad going into Ireland, killing Catholics and burying them in woods and stuff like that. The truth behind it was an editor from, I think, like the Daily Star had come up with this idea. You needed a front man, so you got an ex-engineer to pose as an SAS guy. This book, you couldn't get it. It was just like flying off the shelves. There was pictures of them pointing to a wood corner, going like that. They're in there and like this. So, fucking idiot went to Northern Ireland on a book tour. He was arrested at the International by the RUC. They took him. They released him within 15 minutes, saying this guy's a complete Waltonity. Now, one thing that annoyed me was the regiment never made a statement. When that book was going out, they could have shut it down straight away through the MOD by saying this is total fabrication and everything else. This guy was going on TV on all the prime
thing is, when you can neither confirm nor deny, so he could be.
And they could give it, yeah.
But he was asked on TV, said, so why is there no pictures of you in your uniform? He went, I had a bad divorce. My wife burned all my pictures and everything.
You've got to wrap it up.
It's all right.
Thank you for hosting us HR4K, Ben. Much appreciated. Do it again. Thank you for your time, Colin. You're an author. Original was the one that got away, obviously. Pen name is Chris Ryan.
Yep.
How can people follow you? Instagram. What is on there?
It's XSAS Chris Ryan.
XSS Chris Ryan. Good website?
No, well, there's a publishing website, but I don't even look at them.
Best place is Instagram then?
Yeah.
XSS Chris Ryan. Absolute pleasure.
Oh man, that's a shame. I was enjoying listening to that. I've got a better understanding, slightly better understanding of Walter Mitty because of people that have sent through. Person that makes up a whole bunch of stuff. I think it's along the lines of the stolen valor things as well. But hard case listening to these stories, man, of people that they've met and people that have tried to palm themselves off as having served in the regiment. Quite hard case. I think that probably happens everywhere, although I don't. There's only one that comes to mind for me. I've heard stories from other guys in NZ and Australia that have come across other circumstances, but there's only one that I know of that whereby I was directly involved in a conversation with somebody, and it was and I'm not going to mention the guy's name because, to his credit, the guy actually did then go in and make it into the Australian regiment. He just wasn't in the regiment at the time. So I'd met this guy's. We'd come back to NZ for holiday, the family. I was out with some of my mates from battalion here in NZ at the time, and this would have been, oh geez, I can't even remember what year it was now. It was a while ago now anyway. Went out and just small world, there with my mates and the guys that were there, and a couple of the guys, I guess they were their girlfriends or whatever, but one of the females was the sister of one of the guys that I knew in Australia at the time. And we were in 4RAR together, and he was in Recce platoon as well. And he was a Kiwi lad, Kiwi heritage, and his sister was still back here in NZ. And anyway, it was his sister. So the lads are talking, obviously, the two females that were there with their partners, including her, knew that we were army guys. And then it come about that, oh yeah, he's in Australia. Oh, whereabouts? I was in 4RAR. Fortunate to be over in the regiment now. I was like, oh, cool. And then that's when she come out and said, oh, my brother's in the regiment. And I was like, oh, who's that? And she said the name. And she said the first name. And I recognized it, and I looked at her, and I was like, and then I said the surname, and she's like, yeah. And yeah, from there I was like, oh, I didn't tell her that he wasn't. Didn't have I just didn't think it was the right time or place to try to, I don't know what you'd call it, flex or put somebody down or say that they weren't. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And then she asked, do I know him? I said, yeah, I served with him at 4RAR at the time when I went over. And she's like, oh, okay. And then it was just I forget what I said, but I sort of cut the conversation off so it didn't carry on much longer. But that's probably been the only time. And then maybe less than a year later or a year later. No, less than a year later, he was on selection, passed selection. Then he was on to the reinforcement cycle, passed cycle, got badged, and the rest is history. So even though he may not have been in at the time, and maybe he didn't say that he was to his sister, this was the other thing in terms of, I suppose, benefit of the doubt at the time, because he went through and got there later. Maybe he had said to her that he was going to join, and maybe she blurted it out incorrectly after a few sherbets or a few drinks or whatever. Maybe she got it wrong by saying that my brother's in the unit now. So yeah, might have been a miscommunication there from her side. But regardless, the bro did follow through, passed selection, passed cycle, got badged, and went on to serve. He might actually still be serving in the unit, to be honest. So I'm not sure where he is these days. But that's really been the only encounter that I've had. These guys have had, Lincoln, some bloody horrendous encounters with people or stories about people that have been trying to say that they're in the unit. I would have liked if Hugh could have let it carry on a bit longer. Seemed like they were just getting into it, but I like how he's just straight into it. Yep, we've got to wrap it up. It is what it is, but maybe there's another. I really enjoy listening to Ben Garwood and Chris Ryan and them having their conversation. Setting aside anything about the Bravo 20 stuff, I'll do the reaction on those clips that I've been sent. There's quite a few more in relation to the first lot of clips that I've done. So there's some other readings and stuff in there that I'll read and go through and do a reaction to those as well. But nothing but respect for these three guys and what they've done. It's cool to hear that Hugh Keir doesn't have that many, if any, negative comments on his channel. I can't see why people would want to put any negative comments on his channel. Hugh seems very fair, very reasonable, obviously very experienced operationally in that as well, and from a military perspective, and just seems like a good guy. Yeah, but I would have loved to I could have sat and listened to these guys carry on talking a bit more. It almost got to the point, it almost seemed like Chris Ryan and Ben Garwood were just having their own conversation. And Hugh was there. Hugh injected himself well, though, and I think him understanding and reading the room and the situation, allowing that conversation to happen, it's cool. It's cool of the host, in this case Hugh Keir, to allow that to happen, let those conversations happen. So anyway, that's my take on this one. Have enjoyed reacting to this one. And shout out and acknowledge Hugh Keir, host of the HR podcast, Mr. Ben Garwood. I don't know, the HR4K I'm not sure if that's Ben's or not, but if it is, shout out to him in that as well. And obviously acknowledge Mr. Chris Ryan. All different stories and butting heads aside, from the Eye of the Storm book, from the one that got away, from Bravo 20 to Soldier 5, all of that stuff aside, I wasn't there. I'm no expert on that. Only the lads that were there on the ground know what happened and what was taking place. And so it is what it is. But thanks again for your time, for your support, as always. That being said, the message is always the same. Regardless of any challenges, difficulties, trials that you may be going through, just encourage you to keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, put one foot in front of the other, take one day at a time. Know and trust that the sun will shine again and that better days are ahead, and those better days are always closer than you and I think. There is a light at the end of that tunnel, so just stick at it. You do have to want it, though, and sometimes we've got to put up with the misery and miserableness and loneliness of that period or phase that we may be going through. But my experience has been, if we can just ride it out as best we can, things do get better, especially if you want them to. So anyway, as always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.